Why are some markets competitive? When I distill it, it comes down to three core reasons. There may be more, but these are the major reasons why some markets are very competitive. The first is a low barrier to entry. Any market, any business that is easy to start, you will find out that you have a lot of players going into that market. So let me give you an interesting example. Banking, the way banking was 20 years ago, banking is a difficult industry to enter for two main reasons. The first is you need to overcome the regulatory obstacle, which is you need a license. You need a license from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Not everybody can get a license from the central bank of their country. So that's why banking is difficult to enter. The second reason why banking is difficult to enter is that you need a huge financial outlay, right? So many of the banks, the last time they recapitalized, I believe it was 25 billion or so. That's not a small amount of money. You need a lot of money to get into that. So it's not surprising that even in a country of 240 million people, you only have about 20-something commercial banks. Why? The barrier to entry into that market is high. Now, contrast this with the POS business. The POS business in Nigeria has taken off. In almost every street or street corner or bus stop or market, they are scattered everywhere. Almost everybody is now doing POS businesses, including even businesses that were not originally into the financial services space, but they saw the opportunity and they took advantage of the opportunity. So you go to some retail outlets, some supermarkets, some petrol stations, they also provide POS services. Why is that? The POS service market has become very, very competitive. In fact, it's so bad in some places, you see 2 or 3 POS people sharing the same table. That's how competitive it has become. Why? The barrier to entry is low, right? If you want a POS machine, I think you just pay a certain amount, which it's not free, but a lot more people can come up with that amount. I think it's less than 100,000. I'm not sure, but it's less than 100,000 the last time I heard. Getting into a business that costs less than 100,000 versus getting into a similar business, banking, which costs you minimum of 25 billion. You now see that because that business has a low barrier to entry, almost everybody is going to flood into that business. So if you take note, not all businesses, not all competitive markets. So for example, banking is competitive, but the banking industry is very, very competitive. But it's not competitive because it has a low barrier to entry. It has a high barrier to entry, but it's still competitive, right? And I'm still going to go through the reason why. But I'm just trying to let you know that if a business is easy to start, many people will go into that business because it is easy to start. It is easy to get into it, and they're going to jump at it. The second is high consumer demand. In any market where you notice that people are demanding a lot of a particular thing, you will notice that the competition is very stiff. Look at food products, for example, raw food products, things like eggs, rice, gari, beans, and all that. That market is very competitive. Even the tubers, yams, potatoes. Why? There's a huge consumer demand for food. So because there are so many people that are buying these things on a daily basis, the demand is so huge that people are buying it on a daily basis. What does that do? It invites people who want to supply that market. If you notice that there's huge demand, and remember what happens, where demand and supply intersect, what happens? Price. So if you have a lot of demand, people are asking for a particular product, but very few people can supply it, you will notice that the price will be high. And because the price is high and the profit potential is a lot, more people start to come into that business to take advantage of the high profits. And as more people enter, as more businesses enter, the prices start to drop. And then gradually it comes to some equilibrium. But bottom line is, it's a very active market. In fact, the food stuff market is so active that many people in that business don't make their profits from profit margin. They don't make their profit by setting a high price. They make their profit from volume. The more people who buy from you, the more you can make. So when there's a lot of consumer demand, it's very likely you are going to see a competitive and difficult market. The third reason is an attractive profit potential. If a market promises a lot of profit, you will likely notice that people are going to go into that line of business. It's the reason why you are seeing a lot of fintechs. You are seeing a lot of microfinance banks because lending is a lucrative business. Banks get money from depositors and pay them 5% interest per year. The same banks will take that money and lend it out at 35, 36, 40% a year. You see the margin is, in fact, almost 8 times. Almost 8 times. That's a lot of profit. So even though people cannot go into commercial banking, you're now seeing a lot of microfinance banks. You are not seeing a lot of fintechs. There are also a lot of businesses that are flying under the radar that essentially are not microfinance banks. They are not fintechs, but they are structured as either credit organizations, cooperatives, or something like that. They do lending. There are also a lot of informal lending platforms scattered everywhere. And that's because of the potential, the profit potential in that kind of business, right? So any business, any industry, any market that has these characteristics, it's easy to enter. You get a lot of competition. If there's a lot of consumer demand for that product or that service, you get a lot of competition. If there is the potential to make profit, you're going to get a lot of people come into that market. If you're interested in learning more about the topics I offer when it comes to starting, building, and growing a business, this is your opportunity to join my community. It's known as the BMG. I provide extensive courses on different topics and challenges that afflict business owners, from how to optimize your profits, how to manage costs, how to boost your sales, how to develop processes, how to scale your business. There's a whole lot that I can teach you. If you want to go deeper into my content, this is your chance. Go to the link on your screen right now, jointhebmg.com.